of ECU?
R.
Do you bleed purple and gold? Are you ready to hoist the colors?
Hoist the colors!
It's time for the most in-depth look into the world of ECU athletics. Welcome to Hoist the Colors with your host, Stephen Igo on 94.3 The Game. Watch the show live on Facebook and at 943thegame.com. Here's Stephen Igo.
Welcome in. It is Hoist the Colors on a Tuesday, February 24th edition of the show. No ECU baseball today. Pirates will be back in action on Wednesday in Fayetteville at Segra Stadium to take on College Charleston. We'll get to that more maybe in our third segment where we'll take a look at the ideal rest of non-conference scenario for ECU baseball, which is off to a 3-4-1 start, but showed some encouraging signs this past week, obviously. So we'll get into that later in the show. We'll obviously dive into that more tomorrow with James Giglio when he joins us in studio. Today we're going to talk a lot of football as well. We haven't discussed as much football lately because it's kind of a lull right now, but it's time we get back to our positional preview / review, if you will, where we're doing better, worse, even, ? We're trying to decide which units stack up and how they stack up better, worse, or even to how the rooms ended last year for ECU football. So we'll dive into inside linebackers here shortly. Also some scheduling news as Clemson, which was set to host East Carolina to begin the 2029 season, has pushed that game back 5 years to 2034. We'll tell you why that happened, what that means, and we'll also look at just the landscape of scheduling right now, how tough it is, the future schedules for ECU, and a whole lot more in our second segment. As always, guys, we're live on YouTube, Facebook, and X. If you have a question or comment, drop it there. We'll get to it over the course of the next hour. You can also check out the shows archived on YouTube, Facebook, and X, and then on Apple Podcasts and Spotify as well. We're joined today, as we always are, except for on very rare days where Philip Pilkington is not in the 94.3 The Game studio, but today he is. He is once again twisting the dials and making sure everything's running, along with providing his great insight. So, Philip, welcome into the program. The real question I do have is, I wore this shirt as a test today to see if Scott Rogers is watching because he claims he's a big fan of the show. He gave me this shirt. He will 100% send a text if he's watching. So today's the real test.
Yeah, it was funny. Michael Buscemi, the producer for, Henry Hint's show, walks in and he's like, "Does I go get a shirt on?" This was before the show with two different baseball teams on. Is that a Mariners Mets? Why does he have a Mariners Mets shirt? And I explained to him that that Scooter was able to get you the shirt at the Little League Classic. Was that this past year? Or was that the year before?
It was this past season. The Mariners played awful and got blown out, but it is a cool shirt. It's got both hats on it. It is from the Little League Classic that obviously he works with Little League, for those unfamiliar, former ECU baseball voice. So we'll find out, Philip. I'm not going to say anything all day. Sometimes he watches the show on replay later, but I'm going to be disappointed if we don't get a text. I'm just going to say it up front.
I would say my phone is not buzzed yet. That's all I'm saying.
Yep. Kind of disappointed, to be honest, but we'll see how the hour unfolds. Which reminds me, we need to get Dylan Johnson back on the show and Coach Gary Overton in the coming weeks as well. We haven't talked to those two gentlemen who are on the call now for ECU baseball, so maybe we'll work on that. Dylan back for another year calling the game. All right, let's start off with some football. I'm going to dive into this. I guess the easiest way is I'll just run through the players lost, players returning, transfers added, all that, Philip, and then we'll kind of give our take on it. So, again, for those unfamiliar, we've been doing this better, worse, even, looking back at what the position room was at the end of last year and what it is now after departures, after transfer portal additions, and I'll kind of run through this, and then we'll have a discussion about it. So, this is the inside linebacker room, and for those unfamiliar, ECU, they run a very hybrid defense, but it's really a 4-2-5. And so you have two primary inside linebackers, and you also have that stand-up rush outside linebacker, which we did last time. You also have a nickel, which we will do next time, and then you have your corners and your safeties. So this is the two inside linebackers. Sometimes you have some position flexibility. I can get into that as we run through this if needed. But you have your both of your starters last year have departed due to graduation. Damian Wilson and Samuel Danka. Damian Wilson last year, former Missouri transfer, 12 games, 532 snaps, 54 tackles, 7.5 tackles for loss, half a sack, 1 pass breakup, 12 quarterback pressures, 48.3 PFF grade. So again, to give you guys a semblance, the PFF, which is subjective grading scale, but often utilized just to kind of give an idea of what players perform at. 60 is considered average. 0 to 100 is what they grade. Above 70, really good. Anywhere in the 60s, pretty good. Damien Wilson last year, 48.3 PFF grade. That's largely due to a 29.5 coverage grade. He was above average run defense, 68.0. Tackling was not good per PFF, 35.3 tackling grade. That was your linebacker with the most snaps last year, Damien Wilson, who has graduated. Samuel Danka, we talked about him maybe more than any other player on the show. He has also graduated. He entered the portal. He came out of the portal. He had no more eligibility. He was just trying to see if he could get another year. He played in all 13 games, moved to inside linebacker last year after playing nickel and rush in the past. Did some position flexibility last year, but still 13 games, 528 snaps, 58 tackles. He finished last year with a 57.4 PFF grade. Was above average as a pass rusher, as you would expect with his length on blitzes, but below average run defense. Noah Holmes was a low-key, really solid depth piece. He has also graduated 13 games, 80 snaps, 73.3 PFF grade as a backup was Noah Holmes. And then Kendrick Davis, he transferred after just playing in 2 games as a freshman. He redshirted. He went to West Georgia. You also saw defensive coordinator and position coach Josh Aldridge leave for USF. Now, notable returners, ECU has really, I would say last year's 3rd and 4th linebackers are back. DJ Johnson, 13 games, 530 snaps. He actually was right in between Wilson and Danka in terms of snaps. So all those guys played about the same. DJ Johnson's back. 60 tackles, 5 tackles for loss, 7 quarterback pressures, 53.2 PFF grade as a redshirt sophomore. Again, really good run defense, 66.2 run defense, good tackler, 66 tackling grade, 39.5 coverage grade. To the linebackers as a whole last year, struggled in coverage for the most part. Jackson Barker is also back. He was a walk-on. He's been elevated to scholarship, 13 games, 179 snaps, 21 tackles, 66.0 PFF grade. He was good in coverage and good in run defense in a limited role. So does he take a bigger role this year? Jordan Miles was a promising freshman last year, the only true freshman scholarship player that did not redshirt. He is back 9 games, 63 snaps, 60.6 PFF grade as a true freshman last year. Played a lot of special teams. He'll step into a bigger role. Incoming transfers, Pirates added 2 transfers, not Zakai Barker like we originally hoped, but Cruz Law and Cade Law, 2 brothers who started their career at North Carolina. They went to Memphis last year with Jordan Hankins, who is the new defensive coordinator and also the new linebackers coach at ECU. So Cruz Law and Cade Law come over from Memphis to ECU. Cade missed last season with an injury. He was more of a special teams player previously at UNC. Cruz, who is the younger brother, 9 games, 164 snaps as a redshirt freshman, defensively 25 tackles, a forced fumble, a pass breakup, 65.4 PFF grade, really good run defender, and a pass rusher decent in coverage. So Cruz Law into the program as a potential impact player along with his brother Cade if he can get healthy. And then 2 high school signees, which I really love. These guys were highly recruited. They're already in. Chad Fairchild, he's like 6 foot, 235, built like a man. Wouldn't be surprised if he plays early. And then LJ Porter out of Huff, state champion in the Charlotte area. They won their first state championship this past fall. He is in school. He can play in space, really good. Kind of a smaller linebacker, but really speedy, just a playmaker. So overall, returning, Phillip, you've got DJ Johnson, who we know can play a lot in this defense, going into his redshirt junior year. Jackson Barker going into his senior year. And then you got Jordan Miles also back as a guy who could take a step. And then the newcomers, Cruz Law, Cade Law, LJ Porter, Chad Fairchild. So this is a room, again, a lot of information there, so we can break this thing down however you want to. It's a room that doesn't look the sexiest on paper, but I also think the play last year wasn't great. I mean, we love Sam Danka. He was kind of playing out of position. We love Damien Wilson, who was up and down. But, I think this room can get better. It's just how much better.
I think it is better. I think this is one of those situations where, honestly, you could make an argument the best player in the room was the freshman. He only played 63 snaps, but consistency, he'll be on the field more. I think coaching in this position. I think part of the issue, and I didn't dislike Josh Aldridge, but it sounds like from what we kind of gathered just from him leaving, maybe the Aldridge Harrell marriage wasn't all it was cracked up to be. I think it just wasn't how everybody thought things were going to go. I think there's going to be more continuity in this room with the coaching staff. I think this team is getting better. I think that, seeing DJ Johnson in bigger of a role is going to be good. I think that the transfers are going to come in and make immediate impacts. I just think there's a lot of depth in this room, and it's going to be one of those rooms, if you're not good enough, you're not going to play because there's going to be somebody behind you who is.
I'm with you. I'm going to go better as well. I mean, ideally I think in an ideal world, you either add Zakai Barker or you still have one of Damian Wilson or Sam Danka just from an experience standpoint. But, for me, having DJ Johnson, who was effectively, he's not going to be listed as a returning starter because he only started, I think, 1 or 2 games. But, snap count-wise and play-wise, he can play both inside linebacker spots. He's now played 2 years, legit snaps. He's a returning starter, even if he's not listed as one. So you have a guy you can count on. We know Jackson Barker, and especially those third down packages. He is the one linebacker I trust in coverage. He's got length. He can play in space. So, I think he could play a bigger role. And then Jordan Miles, like you said, I think the upside's really high there. I mean, for him to play last year with the depth in front of him says a lot. Now he's got to take the next step this summer. And Cruz Law is a guy who played a lot as a redshirt freshman in Memphis. And I'm telling you, Chad Fairchild and L.J. Porter, those guys can go. I don't know how they'll – you just never know with freshmen. But, these are the best linebacker recruits I've seen ECU recruit. So I will say this. Josh Aldridge, before he left, he recruited some great linebackers. Now we just need him to stay here and develop because Fairchild will hit the crap out of you, and L.J. Porter is just a gamer. So I think we had L.J. on signing day. He's confident. He's ready to play. He's ready to play now. We'll see if the coaches think so. But it's going to take some time for me to and for the coaches, I think, to figure out who goes where and who fits best in what situation after DJ. We know DJ is a downhill. He's kind of similar to Zakai. He's undersized, but he's a downhill physical linebacker, and he just wants to go and hit somebody. And then you got Jackson, who's more of an all-around guy. The rest of them, I'm still figuring it out. I need to see more game action, but I'm looking at it, I feel pretty good about the first 2 or 3 guys at both spots, and that's encouraging to me because then you don't need everybody to hit. You just need a couple guys to hit.
Yeah. And I love, Jackson Barker in coverage. Like you mentioned, he'll definitely be on the field in 3rd and long. The question is who's with him. I know our intern Isaiah is really, really high on L.J. Porter. He attended, I would say, 3 or 4 of his games this year in high school. He actually knows the coaching staff over there. Like you said, roles, packages, they change down in distance. They'll do things differently. But, man, I don't know, man. There's something about this room, though, this year that I've been kind of – ever since the portal closed, we got those 2 brothers. It's just no disrespect to the guys who left, but like you said, Wilson just wasn't great. It's were we hanging on to guys for the sake of hanging on to guys and playing them for the sake of playing them? I don't know. And then you even wonder, could a guy like Kendrick DeJour move over and play in this spot a little bit if you do lose some guys? He tackles really well when he plays well. He just kind of fell off there at the end. But if we get him back, I think it's a guy that could move over if there needs to be. I mean, I think the linebackers are going to be good.
The unknown here is Jordan Hankins. We talked about Josh Aldridge coming in last year, and really, watching practice, Blake Harrell was not very involved coaching the linebackers. So it was Josh's job. And so this year, you would expect Jordan Hankins to do the same. He's going to be the linebackers coach coming over from Memphis. But I think the biggest difference is, Phillip, just based on my conversations, is I think when Josh was hired, it was sold as more of a, hey, this is going to be a mutual deal. I think Hankins comes in knowing, obviously, this is his room, but this is still going to be kind of Blake and Roy and those guys having their input, and Jordan's just kind of running what they've been running. So I'm hoping, and we won't really know, and we still haven't talked to Jordan Hankins, by the way, as Davy Jones asked any update on interviewing the new football coordinators. That kind of addressed that at the end of yesterday. We're just waiting. Hopefully at some point in the spring we get some access. But it's just kind of an unknown. It's weird that they were so good defensively last year statistically, and then we find out that, I guess Aldridge wanted to run his own show. So I'm just curious how that relationship goes as the offseason moves along.
Yeah, I'm going to go on a limb and say they were open with Coach Hankins about why Coach Aldridge left. Because you got to ask, right? You come in, you go, man, you have 1 year turnover at this position, and the defense was good. Why? If you're Coach Hankins, you're asking that question. I think it will be communicated better this time. Like I said, I'm not blaming Coach Aldridge. I'm not blaming Coach Harrell. It is what it is. I'm sure both guys would have done things differently looking back. But I think they've learned from whatever mistakes were made, and I think this will be a better situation. I really do. I don't think Coach Hankins would have taken the job had he not been okay with what is in place, and I think we all kind of know what is in place.
Davy Jones in the chat says, I just have a gut feeling that next year's football team will be good. I like the choice of spreading the field and passing and running off of it. It will depend on how the talent comes together. I mean, as we do these breakdowns, and we'll get more into the defense as a whole, I once we're done, but I don't know, maybe I'm just talking myself into it because I cover it every day, but I feel pretty good about it too. I know I was talking with Blake at some of the baseball games this weekend. He's like, we got to get a lot better. We're not great right now. You would expect him to say that. But I think if it comes together, like the pieces are there on paper, and you just never know in the portal era. Everybody's going through this, but like I think I'm confident too. I mean, maybe it's just because Blake Harrell's 14-5 as a head coach, and I'm just going to believe it until we don't see it.
He's given us no reason to doubt him. Every game he's lost, he was a dog in, I think, for the most part. I mean, shoot. I mean, how can you go in feeling bad? I mean, yeah, new quarterback, that is different. 2 new coordinators, that's always tough. We see how it affected the Lions this past year, but that's college football nowadays. I mean, Blake's been in. I think Blake's had taller tasks than what he's got going this offseason, and he's succeeded in taller tasks than what he's got coming this offseason.
And through 19 games at this point, UTSA has been the only game ECU's really been uncompetitive in during the Blake Harrell head coaching era, as crazy as that is to say. So we'll see. I will continue to break this thing down. On the other side, we'll talk some scheduling. And by the way, we should be getting the American Conference schedule for this coming season here any day. And I'm sure the American will drop it on a Friday like they always do, and then we can barely talk about it. But hopefully we get it soon, and we can break it down on the show. But we'll talk some future scheduling after this. Clemson moving the 2029 game to 2034. We'll tell you what that means and why it happened after this.
You know what the problem is with standard belts? Usually you have to choose between too tight or the opposite, too loose. But with Anson Belt and Buckle, you don't have to choose. We got rid of the holes and instead have a track system designed for micro-adjustability. That way you can enjoy a perfect fit every time. Anson Belt and Buckle. Find your perfect fit today.
Healthwise Pharmacy rounds the bases with all of your infusion, retail, compounding, and medical equipment needs. Locally owned and operated by pharmacist Marcy Parker, Healthwise has grown to be your most trusted provider for infusion services. Currently providing in-home or on-site infusions in North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia. Visit Healthwise Pharmacy at 615B South Memorial Drive or call 252-295-0059 to speak to a patient service representative to find the option that best suits your needs.
The best burgers around. Everyone loves a thick, juicy, and fresh burger. Tiebreakers does real burgers better than anybody. And don't forget about the cheese sticks, fresh salads, and more. So don't just go to any burger-themed restaurant chain. It's time to break the chain and eat local. Tiebreakers, burgers and sports at its best.
Go Pirates! Arrgh!
In this age of globalization, we've learned that bigger isn't always better. Ever tried to get phone help from a big corporation from a real person? Right. That's what's so nice about Phelps Chevrolet. After more than 50 years serving our community, Phelps remains family-owned and operated. Mike, Daryl, Wave, West, Allen, and Clay deliver hometown service and integrity, same as always. They share your experience, they share your values, and they are ready to help with any motoring need. Come get you one.
Daughtridge Gas and Oil has been your dependable propane supplier for 95 years. Their trained technicians can service and properly install all your propane and natural gas appliances. Plus, Daughtridge Gas and Oil is your backyard expert with fire pits, grills, smokers, and more, including quality outdoor furniture at their Greenville Patio and Hearth Shop at 1901 Charles Boulevard. Go by and see the knowledgeable staff at Daughtridge Gas and Oil for propane delivery or call 756-1345.
You have a choice when you invest in insurance, and when you choose First State Insurance Advisors, you're working with people you can trust. Clark Stallings has deep ties in the community. His team, including Keaton Smith, Regina Asby, Phil Leyva, Max Joyner Jr., Max Joyner III, and Ginger Smith, provides knowledgeable and professional advice. First State Insurance Advisors is an independent insurance agency. They offer all types of personal insurance as well as various types for business. Call or email First State Insurance Advisors
Everything you
today.
need to
We
know
wanna
in the
be your
world of
trusted
ECU
choice agency.
athletics. This is Hoist the Colors with Stephen Igo on 94.3 The Game.
All right, welcome back in. Hoist the Colors on a Tuesday. We're talking some ECU football 2026 in segment one. We're still waiting on the 2026 conference schedule. Ryan in the chat says, I saw Tim Pernetti, the American commissioner, reply to a comment on social media that was coming soon. So we should get that by the end of the week. I would think usually late February is when it drops, and we should know. Philip Pilkington, over under 1.5 Thursday games for ECU football in 2026.
Under.
You going under?
Yeah. I don't think we get after 3 last year. Like law of averages says, you're gonna have under. I think there's one at home for sure. I'm going no road. I'm going one at home, none on the road. But it'll probably be 2. Now that I think about it, it'll be
It just
2.
feels like 2.
Yeah.
As long as there's only one home. I mean, ideally 0 at home would be perfect. And 1 on the road, give me that. I'll take that.
I don't even mind the road ones. I know it's not really ideal for you, but it gives us a Saturday off. I work late on a Thursday night, but then, we come in and do the show Friday, and then I get Saturday off. I don't mind the road ones.
Yeah. Last year it was too much. So we'll see. I'll be shocked if it's 0, but I would expect at least 1. Just given the Americans' new thing is to play on Thursday night and to showcase the conference on ESPN. All right, some scheduling news dropped on Monday after we were done with the show. Clemson and ECU are scheduled to play to open the 2029 season at Clemson. That game has been pushed back to 2034, September 2nd, so it will still be a season opener. Clemson will still pay ECU $1.5 million guaranteed to play the game, and that game is now set for 2034. Now, we'll see if the game ever actually gets played. I was looking at Clemson's schedule during the break for future years, and, man, it's crazy how far they're scheduled out. So the reason this happened is because the ACC is going to 9 conference games, and Clemson, even with having moved the ECU game, still has 4 non-conference games scheduled for 2029. So they still got to move 1 more because they've got Georgia, Furman, South Carolina, and Notre Dame scheduled for 2029. And Clemson is booked up with 3 non-conference games through basically 2036 because, Philip, they're scheduled to play South Carolina and Notre Dame annually every single year. So that gives them 1 non-conference game. They came out with the Notre Dame scheduling agreement this past year. Obviously, you had the ACC tie-in with Notre Dame, but they're going to play every single year through 2038. And then you got the South Carolina rivalry game. And so basically,
an FCS game.
Yeah, so Clemson has 1 slot for non-conference when you think about the non-game ACC schedule for future years as it stands now. And right now they're slotting ECU in on September 2nd, 2034. So what's crazy is I'm looking at their future schedules. They have the Furman game set for 29. We'll see if it sticks. And they have Citadel set for 2028. After that, they have no FCS games scheduled because they have Oklahoma, a home and home with them. They've got ECU in 2034. They've got they have got Georgia, 4 games home and home with them. So I'm just curious where this is going to land long term, because is Clemson really going to want to play Oklahoma, South Carolina, Notre Dame. I mean, even in 2034, Philip, ECU at Notre Dame, South Carolina, that's a tough non-conference schedule. Like, you would think they'd want the easiest game possible.
Yeah. You know, you mentioned they got 4 and 29. The Georgia game was added yesterday in replacement of the East Carolina game. Furman might be getting the boot, but I'm with you. Like, you know, I think the thing is right now, man, like, when you schedule these home and homes, example, Georgia, you're going to net the black. You're going to get it on a big TV deal, prime slot, network television, and, you know, you're going to get a home game and a road game out of it. If on the flip side you did a home game against Furman or whoever, you're paying them, you're pretty much buying them a new locker room to show up and play. You're going to lose money because it's going to get put on ACC network as part of just your normal contract. You're going to pay them $800,000 or $1 million to come get their teeth kicked in. So, you know, from a financial standpoint, this makes sense. But, Stephen, you brought it up from the other standpoint of, do you want to win some football games? Now, the ACC right now is so bad, they do need to do this in order to beef up the resume in case they don't win the conference championship. However, with that being said, how do you know what the conference is going to look like in 8 years? You don't. You don't know what the conference is going to look like in 8 years, much less how good the teams are. So
that's why I'm shocked that they're scheduling out this. I mean, they have a game scheduled out. They have multiple games, Philip, scheduled out through the year 2038. I mean,
I'll
insane.
be 40.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to be old. I mean, hopefully we're both still here. I mean, who knows with the world the way it's going? ECU
I'll
has
take our jobs.
This is true. ECU has 2 games total past the year 2030. They've got Old Dominion in 2031, and they have Clemson in 2034. Clemson is already basically almost done through the 2030s entirely due to this South Carolina Notre Dame series, which I'm all for keeping the rivalries going. Obviously, South Carolina Clemson, great traditional rivalry, but like, is it really necessary to play Notre Dame every single year for 11 straight years? I guess. I mean, it seems a little much, but
it is. I mean, I'm all for Notre Dame having rivals, but why don't they schedule USC every year? Keep that rivalry going. And the USC doesn't have an out-of-conference, another rival like Clemson does. I mean, they play UCLA every year, but they're in the same conference.
For ECU, this becomes a little bit of a problem for 2029 because now, just looking at the schedule going forward, you still have to find a game for 2027 due to Wake Forest canceling that game. Now, most likely I've heard, although not done, I've heard a lot of Coastal Carolina talk, potentially a home and home there. You already have for that year Western Carolina to open the season. Then you're open on 9/11, 2027, and then at Northwestern is a bye game, and then Georgia State on September 25th. So you were going to have Wake Forest at home that year. They bought it out. So you're still scheduled to play at Wake Forest in 2028. I've heard Coastal may be an option there to extend that home and home series. And then 2029, you went from opening at Clemson and having Old Dominion and Liberty on the docket with likely an FCS game to come. Now you just have Old Dominion and Liberty as your 2 non-conference home games and no games scheduled for the first 2 weeks of the season. Kenny in the chat is calling for a road trip to Vanderbilt for a bye game. I'd be all for that. I'm looking at Vanderbilt's 2029 schedule now. They play Purdue on 9/8. On September 1st, they should be open. How much would the Pirates need to get paid to go play at Vanderbilt?
I don't know, close to $1 million. But with what you're telling me now, Stephen, that sounds like 2027 we're hosting Coastal, and 2029 we're going to Coastal. If you say it's going to be a home and home, you still got to schedule 2 games. Looking at it, Coastal is open the first week of 2029. So, yeah.
Yeah, and it just depends on, because I've heard maybe ECU goes to Coastal in 27 and then hosts them, because they're already scheduled to host them to conclude the series in 28.
Okay.
And so I've heard they may look at going to Coastal next year. Now, they did, like you said, they had 3 home games originally for 27. But do they want to add a third home game, Western Carolina, Georgia State, Coastal Carolina in the same year? I don't know. But then would you want 3 home games in 2029, ODU, Liberty, Coastal? You know, I mean, that's not really moving the needle either.
And then you're probably still playing an FCS game at home. So, yeah.
2030, ECU needs another home game. They have Norfolk State and then scheduled road trips to at South Carolina at Old Dominion. It's possible they could get that Coastal game back in 2030. So it's just a puzzle, man. And the thing that concerns me is NC State is on the schedule for 2028. That's the last scheduled Power 4 home game.
That ain't happening.
And I'd be surprised if they end up making that trip. I mean, Wake Forest already canceled. I think there's like a $500,000 buyout in the contract. And I don't, look, would I love to see the game played? Absolutely. Should it be played? Absolutely. But if you're NC State and you see Wake Forest cancel this, you see everybody else not going on the road to play these teams, why would NC State play the game from their perspective? I mean, is it cowardly? Yes, but at the same time, from their perspective, I don't blame them if they're able to get away with it. And until legislation steps up and requires it to be played for the betterment of the state and funding for these institutions, which is absolutely a valid argument, all the money that these games bring in, I don't blame the schools for canceling on their own, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I don't blame them either. And, like you said, I've kind of got mixed feelings on the state getting involved because it is good financially. It can bring in a lot of tax dollars. However, it is kind of like government stay out of sports. But you know who's the issue with all this? The true governing body that's not governing anything, the NCAA. They have got to find a way to limit teams just getting hosed and bought out of deals. But the NCAA sits on their rear end all day and doesn't do a dang thing. And it's always been this way. And they're not even trying to make rivalries happen. They really don't care what happens. As long as 68 teams show up in March, the NCAA couldn't care less what happens to anyone, anybody, all year long the rest of the year.
We talked about it on the Bucks on the Pond podcast Monday night, but it is refreshing to see college baseball is not going this way yet. You still have the traveling series with North Carolina. You still have NC State willing to play home and home with ECU, et cetera. Got all these schools playing each other, and it's an awesome atmosphere. It's how it should be. It's just how, like you said, it's how the NCAA and the lack of leadership has allowed the game of college football to become to where the rich can hoard all the money themselves and try to make it as unfair as they want, and nobody's going to do anything about it. And so, at the end of the day, I hate it as somebody who covers ECU and knows what the atmosphere can be like when you have notable teams coming into Dowdy-Ficklen. But, I'm not going to blame these schools for taking advantage of the system. The system is what sucks. The system is what's broken. So, it's a shame to see it end up like this. Kenny Adden, we need to see a new deal with App State. I agree with that. I would like ECU and App to play every year. I'm looking at these future schedules, and, there's just nothing that really excites me. No offense to ODU. It's a nice game, easy drive. At this point, I'm all in on ECU App State annual rivalry. Make it happen, man. Give me somebody that cares about football. It's going to bring
just every so often, because it is a quick game or a quick drive. It's easy. They got a nice stadium, but I don't get up for ODU week. It's not like, man, ODU's coming to town. Got to beat these turd Monarchs. Yeah, I feel that way for the App game, so I'm all for it. Make the App an annual thing, and I'm keep scheduling ODU every now and again. Maybe a 4-game home and home spread out over every decade. Where you play 4 out of the 10 years, just because they can. There are few fans they have can travel down. We can travel up. It's easy. It's cheap. You don't got to fly. So I'm okay with it. But yeah.
And I know we have to get a break in, but we could do a whole show on scheduling. And first, I do want to say, I know a lot of people blame John Gilbert for the scheduling. I think it's not his fault. It's just this is the way it is. And no matter who the AD was, you can't hold a gun to somebody's head and force them to come play at Dowdy-Ficklen. So that comment, and then also, at what point does the American look at going to non-conference games? Because everybody else is. We've asked Tim Pernetti. He says they've at least looked at it, but I just don't know if the value's there. but also if you just end up playing these bye games on the road where you're most likely to lose, or other non-conference group of 5 games, is it worth it to not go
Bye
down?
games are worth it because you're making more money than would be playing a conference game. But if you're playing Old Dominion, I mean, maybe we need to hire Vito Corleone to come in and make them an offer they can't refuse.
Yeah,
said John Gilbert
so.
can't hold a gun to anybody's head, but
whatever it takes, man. Whatever it takes at some point. Who knows? Scheduling, it's a tough thing to figure out. We'll continue to discuss it as obviously we should get the Americans soon, the American slate for 2026 soon. And next time we get John Gilbert on, we'll hit on scheduling as we always do, just to get kind of a big picture topic discussion going on that. All right, speaking of schedule, when we come back, the Pirate baseball team is 2 weeks into the non-conference schedule with mixed results. We'll tell you what they need to do to kind of get their resume in a better spot as non-conference continues here over the next few weeks. We'll hit on that after these messages. This is Hoist the Colors on Tuesday.
This is about you, your family, and the health of all who live in Eastern North Carolina. This is about the transformation of a health system into something more powerful and more human, about creating new ways to treat disease and keep you well. This is about ECU Health, which is to say, it's really all about you. ECU Health. Minds, hearts, purpose.
You have a choice when you invest in insurance, and when you choose First State Insurance Advisors, you're working with people you can trust. Clark Stallings has deep ties in the community. His team, including Keaton Smith, Regina Asby, Phil Leva, Max Joyner Jr., Max Joyner III, and Ginger Smith, provides knowledgeable and professional advice. First State Insurance Advisors is an independent insurance agency. They offer all types of personal insurance as well as various types for business. Call or email First State Insurance Advisors today. We want to be your trusted choice agency.
Acre Station Meat Farm, along with Lane Angus Beef, bring you Farm to Fork Beef.
Stock your freezers now with affordable beef boxes, just in time for the grilling season.
Farm to Fork Beef brings quality local beef to your family. From your traditional butcher shop, Acre Station Meat Farm. Come on down to Acre Station Meat Farm and find out why we're #1 in fresh cuts and friendly service.
Acre Station Meat Farm, Highway 32 North, Pinetown. At National Finance, we're all about hometown support, just like ECU football. National Finance helps us win on and off the field. They've got your back when you need it most. Fast, easy personal loans for life's big plays. And just like us, they're committed to Eastern North Carolina. National Finance, proud supporters of ECU athletics. Visit nfcmoney.com for loans as fast as today.
Make every day electric on the Kawasaki Electro 20 electric balance bike. Maximize the fun with long run times, impressive top speed, and Kawasaki build quality. Easy adjustability and smooth handling make everyday riding more enjoyable. And the standard MTB type tires provide off-pavement capability. The Kawasaki Electro 20 is the electric balance bike that's built to rip. Go to Ron Ayers Motorsports, Memorial Drive north of the airport, Greenville.
All right, welcome back in. Hoist the Colors, Philip Pilkington here on a Tuesday. We got some comments I want to circle back to at the end on football scheduling. Quickly, though, I do want to address one before we talk baseball. Davy Jones says, to speak negatively about playing Old Dominion is like UNC or NC State talking negatively about playing East Carolina. Hard disagree, Davy Jones, from the standpoint of Old Dominion restarted its program in 2009 and has only been playing FBS football basically for a little over a decade. They are essentially a brand new football program in many ways. They stopped playing football after 1940 until 2009. ECU's been playing football since the 1930s. They have a proud tradition. ODU is basically a brand new program, very small fan base, and to me, it's night and day difference. So I disagree with that. That's part of the reason I love the App State series is they've been playing football forever. ECU's been playing football forever. ODU, to me, is not comparable to ECU from a football perspective.
Well, and then also, I think the biggest thing, too, is even more so, to me at least, is the fan base thing. Like, State fans can go to work and talk junk to their ECU friends and vice versa. Like, I know one person that went to ODU. I think I've only ever met one person that went to ODU. But like you said, with App, you know how many people I know went to App? You know, how many texts I exchanged that week? And I'm sure the same thing for you, Steven. I mean, it's just, there's no fan base.
I agree. Somebody's saying that the sound isn't working. I just double-checked it is working, so I don't know what's going on with – you may want to check your computer. Somebody who is
everything looks normal on mine, and I got meters moving, and Davy Jones is commenting, so.
Yeah, I think it's working. All right, so we'll circle back to some more football comments here at the end. Baseball, I want to hit on this. I ran some numbers during the break, Philip. So ECU 3-4-1. The record's not the sexiest, I should say. I almost said something else there. First off, you got the freaking tie in there. It's going to drive me crazy all year. But you don't have a winning record. You're 3-4-1, but you're not in a bad spot after the way ECU played versus North Carolina. Now there are 14 games before ECU opens conference play on March 20th. Those games are, of course, this week you got Charleston midweek, LeClaire Classic with Rutgers, Troy Western. Then next week, tough week, you go to UNCW. Then you take on Coastal on the road for 3, which has some injuries but is still ranked very high. 2-week midweek the following week, ODU, William and Mary, and then Pennsylvania for 3 games, and then Elon midweek before UAB. Is it unrealistic for me, Philip, to request this team to go 10-4 or better over the next 14 games?
Not unrealistic.
You think so? That's fair?
Yeah.
I think if ECU wants to get itself back into a really feeling really good spot, you go 10-4 over the next 14. You're 13-8-1, which still isn't the sexiest record, but I think if you took the 1 away, it'd look a little better. If you go 11-3, you're 14-7-1. I think that's kind of the ballpark I'm hoping ECU is in going into conference play with one of those 2 records. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think it's fair. Let's look at this from a 11-game deal here and disregard the Coastal Series. I think it is 100% fair to ask them in those 11 games to go 9-2. I think they're a good enough ball club. They're well coached enough. They're experienced enough to go 9-2 in those games. And then I think the floor that you would accept at Coastal would be 1-2. Therefore, what you said, Stephen, 10-4. If you win the Coastal Series, I'm requesting 11-3. It's always tough to sweep the LeClaire Classic. Troy's a good program. Rutgers is out of the Big Ten, even though they're not one of the sexier options out of the Big Ten. They're still a Big Ten program. So you drop one there, and then, between Wilmington and, if you win at Wilmington, you should probably lose 1 game in the LeClaire Classic, and then as long as you beat Wilmington, I'm saying that's arguably 10-1 if you take care of business against Wilmington. You shouldn't lose any of those other games.
And when I was running through it, I think I picked the UNC Wilmington game as a loss because I feel like ECU always just plays kind of poorly down there. I know they won last year on the Boucher Grand Slam. But I picked 3-1 this week. I want to say maybe 1-3 or 2-2 that week and then 1 loss. So I guess I had them winning Wilmington. I had 2-2 Coastal Wilmington week, and then I had 3-1 or 4-1, ODU, William and Mary, Pennsylvania. So I was kind of accounting for a loss just because it's baseball, if that makes sense. It's just tough to rattle off that many. But
it's tough to win
I think
5
it's
in a
realistic.
week. Yeah.
So I think if you get to either of these records, you're in good shape, like 13-8-1 or 14-7-1. And you're in great shape if you win the Coastal Series and you have one of those records, because then at that point you would have, we talked about in the preseason, you would have more than held your own. We said ECU needed to at least go 3-3 in an ideal world. Well, they're 1-1-1 against North Carolina, and now you have the Coastal Series coming up. I mean, if you win the Coastal Series, and this is way looking ahead, then you would have not lost to either top 10 preseason team on your non-conference schedule, which to me would be a pretty big feather in the cap. I mean, we'll see how it plays out. Coastal's injuries are a concern for them. Maybe they drop a little bit, but that's still going to be tough. And then you kind of make up for the Xavier series at that point. So the big key is just taking care of business and hopefully stacking some wins, because we know the committee is going to look at the record. You're going to have to stack some wins and get that RPI moving in the right direction, and you can't afford but so many letdowns, even if you have some high-end wins, Philip.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. And that's part of the reason I think I'm challenging them to go 5-0 in that final week. And you know, Penn's a good team out of the Ivy League. They are, but it's that last out-of-conference series at home where they always seem to really lock in and just beat the brakes off whoever it is. And 2 midweeks against 2 lesser opponents, let's just call it what it is. And that, I think they can go 5-0. That'll be stacking the wins. Like I said, Xavier at least is going to be an RPI boost once it's all said and done. The RPI is really whack right now. Like UTSA is like number 2 or something.
It's not even worth looking at.
Yeah. But, you know, Xavier's playing this tough schedule. It's going to be all right. If you win that Coastal Series, I feel good.
Pennsylvania, they get swept by number 24 A&M, but they lost the opener 1-0 and lost the second game 2-1. So maybe they have some good pitching. And that is spring break week, by the way, that 5-game week where you have ODU at home at William & Mary. Playing a one-off at William & Mary, I understand why it's being done, probably for a scheduling agreement, but that's going to be kind of annoying. And then the Pennsylvania 3-game set. So, yeah, I mean, ideally – you could win one. You have ODU, William & Mary, Pennsylvania for 3, and then Elon. I mean, that's probably your easiest stretch of the schedule, just from a opponent standpoint. It'd be nice to go into conference play on a little win streak there. So we'll see. But that's kind of your evaluation as we are 2 weeks in with mixed results for the ECU baseball team, but still, as a result of the North Carolina performance, still in a decent spot, and now they just got to kind of turn it on. And as Cliff says, always be playing your best baseball by the end of the year, but you still got to have a decent resume to get there and be playing that best baseball then to make the conference, to potentially be in contention to host and obviously make the NCAA tournament. All right, let's get a break in. We'll come back. We got some other questions on football scheduling. We'll circle back around to those, and we'll do that to wrap up the show after this.
You know what the problem is with standard belts? Usually you have to choose between too tight or the opposite, too loose. But with Anson Belt and Buckle, you don't have to choose. We got rid of the holes and instead have a track system designed for micro-adjustability. That way you can enjoy a perfect fit every time. Anson Belt and Buckle. Find your perfect fit today.
Daughtridge Gas and Oil has been your dependable propane supplier for 95 years. Their trained technicians can service and properly install all your propane and natural gas appliances. Plus, Daughtridge Gas and Oil is your backyard expert with fire pits, grills, smokers, and more, including quality outdoor furniture at their Greenville Patio and Hearth Shop at 1901 Charles Boulevard. Go by and see the knowledgeable staff at Daughtridge Gas and Oil for propane delivery or call 756-1345.
Other restaurants claim their food is fresh and fast, but are they friendly? At Moore's, you're treated like family the minute you walk into their doors. With locations in Winterville, New Bern, Swansboro, Morehead City, and Jacksonville. We've been practicing what we preach since 1945. At Moore's, our barbecue is slow cooked and smoked over real wood daily until it's so tender it's falling off the bone. Combined with our fresh chicken, cooked-to-order seafood, and homemade fixins, we're sure you'll agree. If it's not Moore's, it's less.
Your confidence makes everything look good. You see the world in vivid color, not black and white. Swing through your neighborhood Fantastic Sam's Cut in Color and let our experienced stylists take you from everyday to extraordinary.
Fantastic Sam's hair salons are locally owned and operated. Our full-service salons are conveniently located in Goldsboro, Kinston, Greenville, New Bern, Jacksonville, and Calabash. Stop in today at Fantastic Sam's, where the possibilities are endless.
You have a choice when you invest in insurance, and when you choose First State Insurance Advisors, you're working with people you can trust. Clark Stallings has deep ties in the community. His team, including Keaton Smith, Regina Asby, Phil Leyva, Max Joyner Jr., Max Joyner III, and Ginger Smith, provides knowledgeable and professional advice. First State Insurance Advisors is an independent insurance agency. They offer all types of personal insurance as well as various types for business. Call or email First State Insurance Advisors today. We want to be
Climb aboard as we set sail and hoist the colors.
Arr, matey!
Back to the show with Steve and Igo on 94.3 The Game.
All right, final segment here, final few minutes. A lot of good conversation with our football scheduling discussion. We will circle back to that. Philip Pilkington alongside. We had a comment about, are we scheduled to play Marshall anytime soon, from Josh Thomas. And also somebody threw out the idea of scheduling James Madison. Don't know who commented that, but I feel like it's worth talking about each of those situations. So here's my thing. Look, in an ideal world, I would love to see ECU and Marshall play often. I would love to see ECU and Southern Miss play often, but I feel like the reason this series was kind of canceled, or maybe not canceled is the right word, but just kind of not renewed, is the distance between the two schools. You look at ECU's scheduling philosophy under John Gilbert. Old Dominion drivable. Obviously, they're going to Bama, Northwestern. They're getting paid significantly to go to those games. Old Dominion drivable. Coastal Carolina drivable. Liberty drivable. South Carolina drivable. Clemson, I assume it's around 6 hours. I assume that's drivable. They may fly, though. I don't know. But you're getting $1.5 million. App State, it's a haul out there, but it is drivable as well. So if you're trying to save money and you have to be a good steward of finances at ECU, like, is it worth playing Marshall, which is a 7-hour trip? You probably have to fly to Huntington, West Virginia. That's an extra expense, versus just playing Coastal, which is 3 hours down the road, or playing ODU. So I think that's a big reason why. James Madison, Greenville to Harrisonburg, Virginia, is 4.5 hours. That's drivable. So I don't know. Look, I wouldn't mind, and I would love to see a one-off home and home between ECU and Marshall, and maybe down the road Southern Miss when the timing's right, but just given the historical matters between the schools. But I do think a lot of this is financially driven. I mean, let's be honest, Philip, would you rather have an extra $500,000 to $1 million to spend on your football team, or would you rather use it on travel expenses for a non-conference game?
I want to win the conference. Got to have that money. The thing is, though, Steven, I think for some of these comments, though, let's go with Marshall. Seems a little more realistic. If you do a home and home every so often, but it's not what you would call regular, once every decade, is there enough buzz around that game that drives up the ticket prices, that guarantees a big crowd, that allows you to sell some extra sponsorship, that maybe does give you, it makes up the difference, I guess. If you're doing it every year, if you're playing them as often as you're playing ODU even, it's just not going to. It's going to lose its luster once it keeps going. But I think it's something that does need to be looked at. But at the end of the day, looked at does not necessarily mean you pull the trigger on it. It just means you weigh out your options.
The plane crash obviously happened in 1970. I believe it was the 2020 game where it was scheduled to be moved up to week zero on the 50th anniversary to be honored, and that was going to be on ESPN. So maybe, why not? And look, ECU, I don't know Marshall's 2030 schedule, but ECU has a opening potentially for the 2030 game. Why not do it, every so often on an anniversary date? That would be the 60th year anniversary in 2030 of the plane crash, and obviously those two schools are linked together. So I would think something like that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, at Toledo on the 7th, home against Austin P on the 30th. So 2 open dates right now for Marshall that week.
Okay. ECU has 3 games scheduled, but they are open after the 14th. So September 21st, and they need a home game. Bring Marshall back to ECU, and then play them in Huntington a few years later. I mean, that's how I would ideally like to do it. Like Philip said, it's not a thing you want to do annually, probably just from a, logistical perspective, but I think it would be something to renew in time. And somebody else commented, I think it was David Jones, saying he'd rather play ODU than Norfolk State, and I agree, but I'd rather get a free win if I need it too, based on what my schedule is. So a lot of it is based on
free wins are good, but you're not going to pay ODU as much as you're going to have to pay Norfolk State.
This is true, but you also might lose the ODU next year if you don't show up with the way that they looked this past year. So scheduling is a tough thing, especially when you're having to do it years in advance, as college football programs continue to do. Even though we showed during COVID, it's not necessary. That's a whole other discussion. All right, we're out of time. Fun show today. A lot of fun topics. Appreciate everybody's participation in the chat. We'll be back Wednesday. More discussion with James Gilio. He'll be in studio. We'll be in studio. We'll talk to you then, 12 noon on HTC.